All right, I'm going to get to my individual standouts from last week's game, and it's going to build off of this particular question that I got from a Locked On Ducks insider. Hi, Spencer. Love the instant reaction shows. Glad you enjoy it because I very much love those, and well, I see the numbers on YouTube. A lot of you enjoy them as well. Something to discuss moving forward. Our offensive line faced arguably the best D line in the country and ran the ball right up the middle all day and 0 sacks. How does this game prepare us for the upcoming defensive lines we will surely face in the playoffs, like Texas and Georgia? Is there any other D line as good as Michigan? Second thought, let's give some props to Poncho for a great game against NFL dudes, no mistakes, and the huge open field block-ish. I love that block-ish. He threw on the design quarterback run for the Dillon Gabriel touchdown. As Borat says, very nice. Threw in the accent there just for you. So, great minds think alike. Poncho was one of my individual standouts coming up later, but let's talk about the offensive line because they, once again, faced a big test and they absolutely passed it. That doesn't mean that everything was perfect all of the time. As I mentioned earlier, when Rodgers got in there and had to go against Mason Graham, there are going to be some film moments that he's gonna kind of cover his face and just look down and be like, oh boy, that wasn't my best. But Mason Graham is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL, so that's not really a fair assessment because there's nobody on Oregon's schedule in the final 3 games as good as Mason Graham. There is nobody in Oregon's final 3 games as good as guys like Tyleik Williams, I think is the guy's name, the interior player for Ohio State's defensive line, or JT Tuimoloau or Jack Sawyer. Like those guys, Kenneth Grant on Michigan, or the guy that they had back, the edge player, Stewart. Like those are all NFL players. They're Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington, none of them. And I repeat, none of them have got defensive lines in the same stratosphere as Ohio State and Michigan. There is an argument, and I think a lot of people would make the case, whether it's anybody at Pro Football Focus or pundits or coaches, that Michigan has the best defensive line in the country. Go ask USC, 4-5 USC. Go ask USC how good Michigan's defensive line is. They were causing absolute havoc when the Trojans went up there earlier this season, and they were the reason that Michigan won the football game. They're the reason Michigan's won a lot of football games this year. But for this Oregon offensive line to have faced so many questions early in the year, and deservedly so, they were not taking flack on shows like this one or others or in comment sections or online, wherever. They were not taking flack they didn't deserve. 7 sacks in 2 games, unacceptable against Idaho and Boise State. But they got it figured out. And it was that Oregon State game where everything clicked. They put Poncho at center, Strother at left guard, Harper at right guard, keep the tackles where they are, and everything was great. That game, 7.5 yards a carry, no sacks, and we saw what this offense can be, and it's been that just about every single week. So the offensive line completely deserves their flowers. As for the caliber of defensive line that they've gone up against and allowed 0 sacks in those 2 games, I have more thoughts on that in just a moment, but if you can do that against Ohio State and Michigan's front fours, there's nobody in the country you can't do it against. Nobody. Absolutely not. You'll face other defensive lines that are good if you make a run in the college football playoff, like Georgia or Texas has got a really good defensive line. I don't know that they're on Ohio State's level. I don't know that they're on Michigan's level. So the confidence in this offensive line should be really high as long as Harper is able to get back and stay back into the particular lineup. So I do want to get to individual standouts here because this plays off of the question. In case you think I just fire off the hip at this this particular program, not the case. I think about things because the offensive line played well on Saturday against Michigan. They are not entirely responsible for 0 sacks in that game. Something I've talked about last week and over the last couple of weeks, frankly, when discussing Dillon Gabriel, is how much more comfortable he looks running this offense and how in control he is. This is a guy who, if he starts every game this year for Oregon, will break Bo Nix's record for career starts in college football. He didn't look like that guy early in the season all the time. He looks like that guy right now. Heck, he didn't look like that guy against UCLA and Michigan State when he was throwing picks inside the 5-yard line. But he looks like that guy right now. He looks like someone who is in complete control. He knows his reads. He gets the ball out on time. He doesn't hold it too long, but his movement within the pocket is, I'd say, as responsible for Oregon giving up 0 sacks as the offensive line playing well and at least holding their own, because there were sequences where he was under pressure. He was under pressure in this game a lot more than he was, say, against Illinois last week, because Michigan's defensive line is so much better. But the same number of sacks were allowed. Actually, I think Illinois sacked Dillon Gabriel once. But Ohio State, this was a little bit the case as well, but I think Michigan's front four was more disruptive of Dillon Gabriel. But his ability to have success, no interceptions, be good situationally against that front four and the pressure that he was facing, the number of times he did have to break the pocket, I think is a testament to how comfortable he feels and just how locked in he looks every single week. And quick note on Gabriel, there was a video of him going over and dapping up Oregon fans after the game in Ann Arbor. I love that stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it. Every game, Dillon Gabriel videos, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. I've talked to him before. He's a cool guy. He just seems like a really cool dude. Would be very easy to go out, have a beer with, and talk ball. So Dillon Gabriel is definitely standout number one. But Poncho deserves some love as well, because Poncho, yeah, he threw the block-ish on Dillon Gabriel's quarterback draw. Great play call by Will Stein, by the way. I mean, you can't time it up or execute that any better. And that particular quarterback run isn't something I think Oregon has showed this year. There was an RPO quarterback draw on the Evan Stewart touchdown against Ohio State, but that particular design, I don't think they'd shown that yet. I love that Stein is still, got some stuff in the bag, and I thought he had a really good game against Michigan. But yeah, Poncho, that's starting center. That's what you want it to look like. He's going to be the starting center next year too, and God willing, he'll be the starting center in 2026 because. He's not given up pressures. He's settled down. There were a couple snap issues early in the year, and reports of that in fall camp, but it's all been clean. Good to go. Poncho's playing really, really good football right now. Pair of wide receivers here. Actually, I'll close with them. Derek Harmon again. This guy, first play of the game, he's in the backfield before the offense can even blink. He's got every move in the book. Every move in the book. And Jordan Birch certainly still working his way back to being 100%. I continue to think Derek Harmon is Oregon's best defensive lineman and maybe best defensive player. You can argue Jabbar Muhammad. I think it's Derek Harmon. I think if there's one guy that Oregon's defense would be significantly different without, I think the answer is Harmon. And he's just making impact plays every week. It's a surprise when he doesn't get into the backfield. I'm literally shocked when he's blocked 1v1 and he doesn't at least disrupt the play. He is crazy good and somehow continues to get better each week, it seems, because he just keeps producing over and over and over again. I can't get enough of that guy. So, yeah, Derek Harmon, once again, one of my standouts. If you got someone who you think deserves a shout out for their play last week, by all means, drop in the YouTube comments, shoot me a note, and I can get to that on Tuesday's show. But the wide receivers here, Justice Lowe, Trayshawn Holden. Yeah, Evan Stewart was spectacular. He only had 3 catches. One of them was taken off. The best catch was taken off the board, of course, because of the penalty. But when Tez goes down, for Trayshawn Holden to have his best game of the year, for Justice Lowe to replace him positionally right away, those guys were big time. And by the way, I shout out Dillon Gabriel, something he's going to see on film. When Oregon kicked a field goal in the third quarter, he made a bad read. I don't think he threw the ball to one of the verticals, one of the seam shots up the field. I don't think they were doing anything except clearing out the defense for Trayshawn Holden to come underneath. Gabriel tries to throw it to him. He's not looking. He overshoots him. Oregon kicks field goal. Trayshawn Holden's got his man beat for a touchdown. There's open field. You put it on Trayshawn Holden's hands, he's getting in the end zone. But the way that Holden has bounced back and the way that Justice Lowe has embraced this growing opportunity. We didn't see a lot of Justice Lowe early in the year. We're seeing a lot of him now. We're going to see a lot more of him going forward. These two guys are not skipping a beat, and you can't overlook how big that is when a player of Tez's caliber goes down in a game, and for the passing attack to not miss a beat, those two guys were just making big plays over and over. And by the way, Justice Lowe is also a great run blocker on the perimeter, and I absolutely love it.